do I do that? There we go. Thank you, Sydney. And I will turn it over to the Terry Slope for some Perkins updates and reminders.
Okay, well, this is our Perkins calendar that we keep updated online. It's updated for 2023. Oftentimes you will get an email from GMS. I call them the robocall emails. They often do not pertain to Perkins. Perkins grant has a lot of different deadlines and rules compared to the other grants. So it's always safest to come back and check the dates on this calendar if you have any questions when you get those emails from GMS, or you can just contact your monitor or me just to verify. Okay. So some of the things we kind of wanted to go over has to do with closeouts and accounting. Our auditors have been asking us to request more detail for the time and record documentation. They want to understand why the time is being charged to the grant. And so if something is stated on the form curriculum work that doesn't tell the auditor why it's being charged to the Perkins grant. So they're asking us to ask you to put a little bit more information, maybe something about the programs of study work or aligning to CTE standards, just something that helps them understand why the staff is charging their time to the Perkins grant. Oh, and then, the usual, please don't wait until June 30th to create some purchase orders and get some things ordered for the grant. And then I'll talk about the expenditures in another slide. And this year is our third year, is that right, Katie, for the Perkins grant? So we do need to start checking the applications and your budgets to make sure that all 6 required uses of the funds are being addressed here in the next year and 2. Okay.
Terry, can I make one comment?
Yes.
I just want to highlight that second bullet for that pre-approval for expenditures. That is required. And so if it was not pre-approved in your budget, if you've made a change, an amendment, please make sure that you get that pre-approval. That does include those working lunches as well. And so the next slide is going to talk about those working lunches, but it is very important that we have that pre-approval, especially when we are filing these for reimbursement. We do have to make sure that we have those listed out. It was approved, and then we have to make sure everything else falls into place. So,
and just piggybacking on that, our internal auditors do check to see if something was pre-approved in the budget and it matches what is being reimbursed. So it's not just for our benefit, but it's also for yours. Okay. And so working meals, paying for food with federal funds, as you all know, is very complicated, and I probably just wouldn't do it if I didn't have to. But if you do, there are a lot of requirements before you purchase a working meal and when you're requesting reimbursement. So best is to just check our Perkins management guide, because we have it spelled out very carefully in the guide what is required. And then, as saying again what Sydney already said, that it does need to be pre-approved in order to be reimbursed. Okay. And then our Perkins management guide, every year we do get questions that we can't answer. And so we have to actually check in with our federal guidance. And so we try to keep track of those kinds of little new things and then add them to the guide, and then also our Q&A online. So if you have any questions, again, you can check the guide or check with one of the monitors, or Sydney or Katie or me. And then resources and support. I just wanted to bring this up because I learned something new. On the federal programs website, they have all kinds of resources for people to check out. And one of them is they started a new Canvas catalog. And I actually went in and signed up and took a course called GMS 101, and I learned something new. So I really encourage anyone who you only use GMS maybe once or twice a year, just go into this catalog, sign up, it's free. It took like 25 minutes. It gives you a really good overview of the different steps that you need to do in GMS, whether it's applying for funds or submitting your application. It's a really good, I'd like to get it on our website, but we're still working on that. And then they also have several slideshows on this federal programs website. So if you wanted something quick and maybe just a little presentation to look at, this is also a good place to go to find that. And then, as we said before, your monitor management guide and our Q&A. So, okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Terry. Before we get on to national updates, wanted to just pause if anybody had any specific questions for Terry about any of the timelines or the guidance, working meals, any Perkins specific questions on top of your mind? No news is good news. As you review that Perkins management guide, if you see something that's not clear, something you'd like specified better, reach out, let us know, we'll add it. We're updating it every single year. We've got a change summary in the back so you can see what was modified or added. Let us know and we'll keep on adding. Okay, just a couple things to share from the national side. Want to make sure everybody was aware. For quite some time now, a lot of national organizations have been working to increase the Perkins basic grant. So that is the flow through, essentially, the bulk of the allocation, specifically asking for about $200 million, which hopefully we would see or feel some of that. As you know, the Perkins formula grant is based on population, essentially. So Nebraska doesn't always receive the largest allocation, but with a bump that size, hopefully we would. Interestingly, the House in their budget proposals proposed an additional $45 million in funding. The Senate proposed an additional $60. However, in the president's budget, it was an even different amount and a kind of shift in focus to this Career Connected High Schools initiative. I'm not sure if you've been hearing about that from OCTAE or the Department of Education. Really great effort. It's just a wee bit at odds with some of the other efforts. So where the increase in the Perkins Basic Grant would be flow through, the same money could be redirected towards this Career Connected High Schools initiative, which is a competitive grant and primarily focused on connecting high schools with post-secondary, dual credit, all the things we're working towards now. But instead of flowing through, it would be application and competitively based. So, you know, fiscal year 23 is most likely going to be a pretty lame duck session of Congress following the midterm election. So not quite sure if we'll see any action, but certainly wanted to keep you all aware as, you know, things are released. I'm sure ACTEN will be a great resource as they keep you up to date with federal policy initiatives that you might want to champion or support. And we'll, of course, do the same. So to that same end, you know, we're seeing a lot of stagnation across the board in all policy. You know, we're still waiting for the WIOA reauthorization. There's some higher ed bills. There's a lot that just seems to be paused because of the hyperpartisanship, as I'm sure you're all aware. We'll see, you know, of course, what happens. There's a lot of uncertainty with the midterm elections and, of course, the inflation that is hitting us all every single day. So really kind of interesting times, especially when it comes to discretionary funding. Really hoping that doesn't impact any addition or increase the Perkins Basic, but we'll certainly keep you posted. A couple other things have been weird lately with our champions who sit in the House and Senate, especially on the Appropriations Committee. With some of those changes, there's maybe some less awareness of career ed and generally less connected with some of those national organizations. So that's what I've heard a lot of the focus be in those organizations, is making sure they're reconnecting with members of the CTE caucus and also any congressional leader, making sure they understand the benefit and value of career and tech ed and how that supports learners in the workforce. So keep you posted as we hear more. Turning a little bit back to the state side, as you all know, in 2018, Perkins was reauthorized, which sent us into a state planning process to interpret and implement the new law. And we created a 4-year state plan that went from 2020 to 2024. So if you can believe it, It's going to be 2023 here in a minute. So we actually are working and starting to redline our existing state plan. We've got a lot of great events planned over the spring to start drafting and working on our next 4-year state plan. You all will be a part of that process. So just kind of wanted to plant a seed that as we get rolling, don't anticipate huge shifts. It's only been 4 years, only been 3 years, but certainly COVID happened and there's other priorities and other ways to just make our state plan more reflective of our state's priorities and where we all want to go together. So we'll be certainly looping you in. Just wanted to plant a seed. It's right around the corner, which is still very hard to believe, but certainly we see great opportunity as we did the first time. And one last update before we get to the data. As you all know, we are required annually to submit data to the U.S. Department of Education, especially on those Perkins performance indicators. We are then held accountable as we then hold you all accountable to meet those performance targets across all students and subpopulations of students. Interestingly, this past year, was the first year that would have included data with assessment. So those ELA math and science scores, and there's been great anticipation across the nation to be able to see for the first time under Perkins 5 what those data look like across the country. And if you can believe it, the data we submitted last December is still not public. So we've kind of been getting that like, oh, it's coming every week. It's coming every week. We heard last week, we think it's actually coming next week. So we're excited as we learn, and we're going to be in DC talking about Perkins data to share with you so we can analyze and look across the nation. Not that we're comparing, but certainly it's important to recognize successes, as I'm confident Nebraska continues to remain a leader in student outcomes. So as soon as we see those national CAR is the consolidated annual report. That's what we submit to the feds for Perkins. As those come out, I'm sure Lexi will be excited to share those with everyone else. Any questions on the national front? All right, turning it over to our wonderful Lexi.
And I'm competitive, so I want to see where we land with other states. So Katie's on her own on that one. I'm just excited to see where we're at. But I wanted to show you sort of, I know you all don't look at this every day like I do, but seeing a snapshot of where we're at for our 2022 targets, not a huge jump from where 2021 was. So hopefully we're all still kind of in a good place and position with that. I'm hoping, I want to try to be like Octay and say next week, but never knows with data. But next week, I'm hoping to start actually posting these report cards for the secondary level on the website so that you can see where your district or consortia stands for the 2022 data. So that's something that I have up the pike for all of you as for post-secondary. The audit window still is until October 30th. So I'm hoping by the beginning of December at the latest, I will be able to post those report cards for the post-secondary level. But if for whatever reason, any post-secondary institutions on this call want to see where they're at, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contact information coming up on the slides and I'll be able to pull that for you just so that you can see it a little bit before December if there's upcoming meetings or conversations you want to be involved in and want updated performance. And then this year is a little bit new for all of us. I'm still learning it as well since we were not really focused in on these 3 indicators at the secondary level. Be able to explain these indicators and how these, feel free to drop any questions in the chat.
Hey, Lexi, you're really, really choppy. You want to try going off camera for half a second, see if that helps?
Uh-oh.
Sorry. I see everyone heads moving, so I'm assuming it's yours. Uh-oh. All right. I'm going to try to do my best to read Lexi's slides. Oh, wait, no, she smiled. She's back. All on her. Go for it, Lexi.
This is all it took. I want to see if still good. But just thumbs up if my internet gets wonky again, and then I'll maybe be able to know from there. And then as quick as possible as I can before I go out. So for the 3 different levels of proficiency, you'll see these ACT benchmarks, the college and career readiness. What we would need to do to be represented in the numerator is I would need to be a concentrator who scored between the numerator. And on top of that, I would have needed to get either a 22 to a 36 in the state administered testing only. So let's say my junior year, I go off on my own and I take the ACT and I score a 22. But when I took it again as a senior for the state administered testing, I got an 18. I would not be reflected in the numerator for the math proficiency. So it would only be the state administered testing whenever I would take it. If I took it as a junior and it was the state administered testing, I would fall into the numerator. If I took it as a senior, I would fall under the numerator for state administered testing in my graduating year. So really the 2 big things would be, I would need to have taken the ACT during the state administered testing piece, and then I would need to have achieved the ACT benchmark for math, ELA, and science. That is basically the only 2 requirements for how we collect the ACT indicators. For students with disabilities who take an alternate core or an alternate form of assessment, they would have a different level of benchmark that they would need to achieve. And if you have questions on how that's collected, feel free to reach out to me and I can go more into that on that as well. And then moving to the 3S1 indicator for post-program placement, because I had a lot of questions about this in June, and I want to be able to give ESUs the opportunity to be able to reach out to your district, since you don't necessarily have this available at your ready, that all districts have 2 different reports that they can pull. The post-school survey list will give you a whole list of every single completer or concentrator that graduated in that reported year, and then a report of missing post-program placement for those groups of students. And so that's an easy way to figure out who you still need post-program placement for. And right now, luckily, great timing, October of 2022 is actually where the collection period, according to the definition, starts. So right now you can start to reach out to your districts to see where they land with post-program placements. And then I also listed the 5 qualifications of post-program placements, because I had another question with only it being post-secondary education, and it's not just post-secondary education, it's also advanced training, military, Peace Corps, and employment. So I just wanted to be able to go a little bit more in depth for all of you and let you know there's some resources that are available right now for you to use for the upcoming collection. And then as you start to get more in depth to 21-22 data, I will post the performance improvement chart that I did last year, but I want to also make sure and make aware to clarify that these are the 3 sort of outcomes that we want from these plans. And so quality and accuracy of data kind of works in tandem with performance. I had a lot of people say, well, we have work-based learning at our district and we have a lot of kids that are enrolled with it. But if the data doesn't reflect that, that still qualifies for an improvement plan, because data quality and accuracy works within that plan. So it's overall program improvement, not just student performance improvement. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit to be able to get a better understanding. And this is all found more in depth on page 32 of the management guide. If you pull up your report card and you see you're on a performance improvement plan for work-based learning, again, after 2 consecutive years, and about what that looks like moving forward. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody had all of that information available to them whenever they go into performance improvement planning. And so that is any questions about performance improvement, any of the data. Katie, you can go to the next slide. I also just wanted to have reporting timelines up. You'll see November 1 is actually when post-secondary data is finalized. So we still have some time to be able to make any corrections to post-secondary data. And then my contact information is at the bottom. So please feel free to reach out with any questions, any I know Otis is on the call. Any upcoming requests that you might need for reports being pulled, please feel free to reach out. It might also be a good idea to loop in your monitor. If I'm not your monitor, sometimes I'll CC your monitor back in just so that they know the loop. You didn't do anything wrong. I like information, so I want to be able to give it to everyone else as well.
Thanks, Lexi. Data questions. Not a ton of changes. Appreciate Lexi's deep focus in this space. All right. Very good. Thanks, Lexi. All right. Well, a couple topics looking ahead. I think first off, we've got Sydney.
Yes, and so about a year ago, we shared these CTE, or new brand spanking new state model programs of study documents, and our career field specialists have been sharing these resources with the field through their fall workshops through NCE, and sharing the upcoming program of study standards, because they are to be implemented during the 2023-2024 school year. And so what does that mean for Perkins administration? So thinking about if there are new courses or if there are changes in course names or course coding, that information will be coming out after the first of the year. And so you have these documents, the current course codes are in there. If a course is not coded yet, then the number is not there just yet, but know that those will become available after the first of the year, and we'll update these documents as those become available. Okay, do we go to the next slide? And so thinking about those, the required 6 uses of funds, with new standards comes a standards implementation process. And so thinking about how to utilize your Perkins funds and Perkins resources, making sure that your educators are aware of the changes in the standards. And so thinking about professional development opportunities that might be needed for new courses, or new, just planning out curriculum mapping and different things like that. Those are some different ways to utilize those Perkins resources for your districts. Also, if you're thinking about adopting new materials or new curriculum, making sure that it does align to standards. And so there is going to be some work this summer to update our Open Education Resource Hub, knowing that some of our resources do require some purchases. As long as it's aligning to standards, that may be another thing to explore in your district. And so lots of work going on here on the professional development side, really exciting things happening. Our career field specialists are amazing. The field, I know, have been eagerly awaiting these standards and are ready to get implementing them. So.
Thanks, Sydney. Any questions on standards implementation, specifically like impact to Perkins or how that relates? Man, Friday morning is a good time to have a meeting. Everyone's so agreeable. I love it. Awesome. Well, you guys know where we are. Thank you, Sydney. All right, turning it over to Therese.
Hello, hello. Okay, everyone. I feel like a drum roll is needed here. So in response to feedback from schools across the state, we have adjusted the revision action grant timeframe to allow for the grant awards to be determined earlier and make awarded funds available starting July 1 of 2023. So the grant guidelines and application templates are available as of today, October 21st, 2022, as soon as the website refreshes, to give potential applicants 5 months to plan, prepare, and submit applications. So the timeline has shifted earlier, but including the due date for applications, but we're giving you 5 whole months to kind of work on that. So and any questions or curiosities about that, I encourage you to reach out to me. The website, as I said, will be refreshed today. So the guidelines document, the template document, so you can start looking at it. The pre-application assistance videos, those will be available by next Friday. I was going to just update them, but they need to be revamped. So I'm going to I'm going to take a beat and just really redo them for you so everything is fresh and super understandable. And I encourage everybody to use those before they actually dive in deep and start writing a proposal. Oh, and we also, can you advance the slide? There you go. And then as usual on the website, we've got links to the resources that you can use to help you do the planning. Priority and preference will be given to projects focused on the recruitment of special populations. So we're keeping it the same priority and preference of last year, but it's an important one, and we're trying to make sure that is woven through everything that we do. And so we are doing that again. And then all the resources that are there, again, on the website. Any questions? No questions or stunned silence? I'm not sure.
We're excited. Revision continues to be in high demand. So we're excited to see what apps come in this year. And yeah, appreciate Therese taking a look at that timeline to really help folks get an earlier jump start and really get those funds available by July 1 and not October or November. So you can really start implementing sooner. So Kelly.
Hey, I thought of a quick question for you, Therese. How will the change in the timeline be communicated? So coming from, the vantage point of being a consortium, is that something that I need to get sent out, or is there a planned messaging that will be sent out to school districts?
Well, so the plan was after this day, because I wanted to make sure that today was the big announcement, I'm going to send out an email, our typical email to everyone, to the whole Perkins list. And then I'll also have a message to share for the career field leaders to share, so they can share it out to all their, to, whoever they monitor, and all the teachers and people in their career fields. You are welcome to, but you don't have to. So try to do the heavy lifting.
It's a great question, Kelly. Any other revision questions? Again, no big changes, substantive relative to the application or the process, just the timeline. Well, we're just flying right through here. All right. Just wanted to share some reminders again. Our team is here for you as a consortium, as a community college, as a standalone district, or any of the districts you work with. Anytime we can come out, we are happy to do so. So please reach out if you have any questions, certainly about Perkins, revision and revision refresh, GMS, data reporting, data use, our methods of administration with the Office of Civil Rights, working with special populations, growing or developing career academies, of course, implementing those programs of study. Whatever you need, you let us know, and we are so happy to come out. And that's all we got for you today. So I'm going to actually stop sharing so we can see everybody. It's great to have a nice crowd. But anything we didn't cover, or any other questions we could answer you were hoping to hear that maybe you didn't?
Actually, Katie, I forgot to mention something.
Go for it.
In your budget, I know people are starting to work on their grants now, and looking at your budget, how you've budgeted with the different categories and the codes, now would be a great time to look at that. And if you're sending people to a conference, great. Are you planning to reimburse them for their hotels and meals, but you didn't budget anything in the 400s? Now would be a great time to file an amendment. Also with purchases of equipment, maybe you budgeted for all supplies, but you're finding out you now have something that's $5,000 or more. Now would be a great time to file an amendment. So just a review of that as you go through the year. It's a lot easier now for our staff and everyone to review amendments than when we kind of get into that crunch time when it's closeout season. So just a reminder about that.
Thanks, Terry. Any questions? Last call. I mean, for right now, you can always call us. Last call for like right now. All right, well, we appreciate you guys a ton. We're here for you. Thanks again for jumping on to hear some Perkins updates and reminders. If there's anything else we could help you with, please reach out to your monitor or anyone you see on the call. And we are looking forward to chatting.